Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, I just a moment ago was doing a great author panel. Now I'm speaking to someone who helps people be great authors. So this is like full circle here. I'm excited because we do these one-on-one interviews with our hub partners, bizbookpubhub.com. Incredible people you'll find in our referral directory, helping you through every stage of the author journey. Without any further ado, let me introduce this week's guest. I'm pleased to interview one of our Biz Book Pub Hub partners. Our hub partners are experts who support entrepreneurs along their author journey. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the world of thought leadership and publishing, a true connector who helps experts transform their ideas into influential books that make a real difference. She's built an extraordinary career as both an author and strategist, earning 6 traditional publishing deals, 10 thought leader titles, a New York agent, and even a feature on Oprah. She's also a Wall Street Journal bestselling author whose award-winning networking books were licensed by major brands like Motorola and Yale's Graduate School of Business. She founded Networlding Publishing, where she's guided more than 175 thought leaders through every stage of writing and launching their first books. Along the way, she's helped global companies like Cisco, Office Depot, and American Express build powerful leadership networks, and even created a thought leader podcast to amplify her authors' visibility and success. Her passion is helping authors leverage both their books and their relationships to create meaningful impact and lasting influence. Please join me in welcoming Melissa G. Wilson. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to just dive right in. I mean, first of all, you and I have such complementary backgrounds when it comes to the networking piece of it.
Yes.
And I see how it relates to the book world, and I don't think most people do. So it's really cool to talk to you. But before we talk about the work you do today, I want to understand your journey and how you even got to the place where you are providing these kinds of services to authors, because it's just not the thing we wake up at 5 years old and think to do. Like, we don't go, when I get older, one day I will like work in publishing. So how did you get into this space? And welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Robbie. And you certainly make it easier for any of us who are passionate about helping other authors take the journey. You make it come alive. You've got all kinds of people involved, and I'm excited to explore. So going back in time, and I'm going backwards in time, I would say that I was at 4 years old reading lots of books that were probably 3 years in advance or 3 years later that I should have been reading them. But I was a voracious reader, and I loved the whole idea of anything about a book, holding a book, reading lots of books. I don't think I was ever without a book. And I never thought of it this way. I never was without a book that I was reading, but then realized at some point, hey, I can write too. And I have ideas. And so that started me into the writing mode. And I just kept going and ended up going to, when I went to college, I was writing. And even I'm going to give a shout out to, sadly, my English teacher who's no longer with us, Miss Postal, because she helped me get from a B writer or B plus to an A writer by showing me the guy who was the head of our class, Joe. He was amazing. And she said, here's what you need to do. And she showed me one of his papers, and I went, oh, I get it now. And then from there on, just took off, and I realized how much having other people involved with you on your journey can make all the difference.
I love that early influence from an English teacher and your love of books from a very young age. Just it reinforces what I know as a parent, which is like encouraging my kids to read every day and how critical that is. But you never know what seeds we're planting, both as parents, as teachers, as people with young people in our lives, that might lead them to discover this whole world. Were you dabbling in writing some of your own stories, whether or not they ever got published, like early on? Was that something you were doing even in school?
Yes, I did write write a lot of different stories. In fact, when I was with my sisters, we're all 3 in a row, we would go to visit our aunt and uncle up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I decided that we would do something different because I was like the leader of the 3 of us. I was the middle girl, but I was always creating things. And I said to them, let's make marionette puppets and let's have a show and put it on and we'll raise money to buy a shower curtain for our parents. And so my aunt and uncle, who are thankfully still with us, they love to tell that story because my nickname's Lisa, and my younger sister's Carrie, and my older sister Cindy. Cindy was like, she was, more like the big picture person, didn't do a lot, but Carrie was great at taking the money and for people who came, and because we charged for the show. And me, I wrote the show, wrote the play, starred in the play, and the play's name was Captain Ghost. It was my first time out there.
I mean, the whole thing is just so wholesome down to
Yeah.
the money's being raised for a shower curtain. But
Yeah,
it gave
yeah,
you a taste, right? Like
yeah,
you created something that other people got to interact with and
yeah.
experience and give feedback on. And
Mhm,
it wasn't just something that was kept in your head or in your private journal. Like that's a
mhm.
really big step. How old do
Yeah.
you think you were when that was happening?
I was 8, about 8.
Yeah, that's
Mhm,
my kids are now, in that sort of about to be 8 and 10 time frame, so it's
mhm.
good for me to remember, like, this is memories they're making now that they're gonna remember, like, when you're 3, it's harder to remember maybe what's happening in the world later in life. Um,
Yes.
so, how did you go from, being sort of an entrepreneurial person who loved sharing your gifts to the world
Mhm,
to a person who, got better with your writing because your English teacher? Like, did
mhm,
you go into a career that was related to any of the writing, or did you have this separate track and then you came back to this? Like,
mhm.
how did you make your way from like high school on?
Yeah, the interesting thing was I went to college. I was at Ohio Wesleyan, and I always took every writing class. And it was a lot of fun because it was it was my first time out with new people then at an older age. And I thought, I feel that that's a good way to get to know people. So, in taking the classes, it helped me improve my writing, and I went from there into actually uh, getting my master's in English, and I got to teach writing on the college level. And I did that in Akron, Ohio. And then I had to just go further and get my law degree, which requires a lot of writing. And I wrote for the property professor that I had. And I even got my mother a little bit extra settlement money when she divorced my father because I was good at writing briefs. And I actually, in law school, had like 10 different jobs because I needed to. My dad had a bad deal that he had invested in. And so I had to pay for college from my second year on up through master's, which I taught so I could get paid. Um, and then law school. And I worked for the SBA, I worked for a criminal law firm. I mean, these are at different times. And I also got to work for uh, the first African American federal district court judge. And that was really cool. So I just kept trying different things, worked for Hartmarks in their legal department. I mean, for me, it was a have to, but then it became a get to do this, get to do that.
Such a great reframe, that idea of have to get to. And also, what an interesting way to try out this medium of writing in
Mhm.
all these different contexts.
Yeah.
And did you end up deciding that you liked one sort of style of writing over others, and that's why you were drawn to certain types of work?
Well, you keep asking really good questions. I'm like, I can't believe I've never got this question answered. Um, yes, that is who I am. And so I get bored quickly, I'm realizing. And so I do things like in bursts, like 3 to 6 month burst. And so that makes sense, with getting to try so many things gave me insights that I think a lot of people don't maybe get the opportunity to have. And for me, I never thought I'd say I'm really grateful for having to basically front $90,000, which is what all those schools cost together. And it just took me 18 years to pay it off, but it helped. It helped me explore. And then, same thing with the 10 books that I got traditionally published. But then, and I took everything, the other thing I realized is things are in decades. So I had the decade when I was first starting writing with the 10 books. Then it was corporate, lots of corporate work because I networked and I got to be at the University of Chicago Women's Business Graduate Advisory Board.
Mm.
And they were so wonderful, and they had me come and help them with networking because these are such smart women, but they were scared to death of connecting. They were more, introverts. Like I really am more of an introvert. And that's where I also decided I was going to write about networking because if you're the host, it's not as scary. And
100%.
yeah, and that's what happened.
I want to go back to something you skipped over, a really interesting piece of this journey, which is 10 traditionally published books
Yeah.
before you were in the world of corporate. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you sound young,
Yeah.
first of all.
Yeah.
How did you get books back then,
Yeah.
traditionally published was the only way.
Yes.
Self-publishing really wasn't around. It was very, very nascent, if it was there at all. And
Yes.
so, everything's still true. You still need to get an agent. You still have
Yes.
to get a good book idea. Maybe there's less pressure to have as much of a following because, now everyone's got different clout measurements. But
Yes.
how do you get your foot in the door going? How do you go from being the kid in your English class in high school to the young adult who's writing
Yeah.
traditionally published books? What's
Well,
this?
what happened, and this is people don't talk about this, but I started around 19 I want to say 1987 after law school. I was at a big law firm, but I also had challenges at home. I had a husband that became very ill, and I also had two sons. And so I was like, I think I need to do something where I can be at home more. So I started a company, and it was actually an early Angie's List. And in Chicago, I was out in the burbs, and that worked well, around the growth of the suburbs. And I ended up realizing that I had helpers. I had other women helping me. In fact, I had this one older woman who invested in my company. And so it grew. But at the same time, I went back home. I was hanging out with the boys, and they were, like 5 and 8 at that time. And I thought, I really love to write a book. And so I started networking and asking people who they knew. Someone knew a person at Dearborn, and being in Chicago, that was helpful. And they liked that I was going to create a book that focused just on how to start a business in Chicago. And believe it or not, that got me connected to our women's business advocate. At that time, we had one. And the unknown fact that I'm sure I would love it if anybody knows it. At that time, women only owned 17% of all small businesses. By the time we got to the year 2000, it went up to 50%.
Mm.
Now, I don't know how it's fluctuated since, but that's where I was. And I thought, this is really great. So it was like a heyday for women to ride up the curve. And so Dearborn, once you get a book done, if they like it and you're doing well, which it did very well, um, Crane's called it one of the best 10 books of the year. And so that got them asking, hey, what else do you have? So that's when I wrote, let me see if it's here. Yeah. You can't see anything. It was the Chicago Entrepreneur's first book. So, but the second one was Make Your Connections Count.
Mm-hmm.
And Dearborn, the person who led the whole sales team, they wouldn't let me talk about networking because they didn't like the word work. So they said and the lead woman there said, you must come up with a better name or this book isn't going to get out there. So it became Making Your Network. And I got housed in because I had to go back to work to make some money because things were tough with my husband with his illness. So I was at Cat and Muchin, which was one of the top accounting firms out there. And they had like 300 employees. And I went and interviewed a bunch of them and then brought out Make Your Connections Count. And it was great. And then I built this system for networking
Mm-hmm.
and just kept going, with it and teaching.
I mean, what a heyday. I
Yeah.
mean, to have access to publishing where people just thought if the idea was good, we'll support it.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, right.
isn't really the case now. You have to like jump through so many more hoops. But if they thought you had something, and you also were writing for such a narrow geographic scope, and
That's
they
right.
actually liked that.
And they still do, I think. What I'm hearing
Mm.
is if you can make it in a city and have that, that cluster, then you can hit a tipping point, if you will. No pun intended. That's where Malcolm Gladwell got his idea for the tipping point was Lois Weisberg was our head of cultural affairs. And when I got remarried, because I was divorced and then remarried, that was my journey. I was in a place that overlooked where she worked. And so it's like, the heyday of all that beautiful thinking that Malcolm Gladwell does. I got to be part of it.
Yeah, that was the late 90s that that became part of the zeitgeist, the idea of the tipping point. And now he just came out with a Revenge of the Tipping Point.
That's right.
And my sort of exciting news is that I always tell people hitting #1 bestseller is like a nice to have, but I have a nice to have screenshot of my book #1 in market research business in front of Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell and Seth Godin's book, All Marketers Are Liars. I mean, it's a moment in time, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I
Cool
feel
when
it.
it happens.
Well, I got to be part of in 2008. I got to be part of Seth Godin's Domino Project Street Team, where he reinvented publishing. There were 70 of us, and we had to apply. I applied 3 times. I figured I got to get into that group. So I did that, and I actually brought Seth in to our Business Marketing Association. And then I also brought him in to another organization, and his fees were upwards in the $70,000 range the second time. So I got to see what it was like to be way up in that space and learn a lot. So I have secrets from that working on that team.
I mean, the networking capacity that you bring to this and that you've codified and taught and wrote about, where does that instinct come from for you? Did you get a chance to practice some of that at a younger age? Like, were there people in your life, mentors, adults around you that were really good at this? Because it feels like a lost art form, and you clearly had an inkling on how to do it.
Yeah. If I would be so bold as to say in my past life, maybe Merlin was my, instructor. It's another really great question, but you'll love this one. When I was writing Networlding, I went to a nunnery and I spent the weekend, and all the nuns were English teachers that had retired, and they all helped me validate my process that I would test and try. And and it was really helpful. And the other thing was the people involved. My biggest strategy, which I'm going to give away, is to find someone in corporate. That was my decade of corporate that went from the year 2000 to the year, well, 2009, when I got remarried, and then I turned toward helping other authors. I had done everything, and I thought it's time for me to give back. So it's been 15 years after. But with this opportunity to work with someone, I happened to meet up with people who were very nice to women who were nice to women, and they would open doors for them. So that was something, of course, that I would do too. And I would partner with men too. That was my big thing, because I saw that Blanchard, Ken Blanchard, from people know him, the 1 Minute series.
Yeah, right.
He would partner with people. And I thought, I'm going to go partner with executives. So that's where the power of two was, with the head of internal alliances at Accenture, John Conlon, and Networlding was with Jocelyn Carter Miller, who became, strangely, the first in the year 2000. Motorola hired her, and I think it was because of the book, because books really give you lift. They wanted help to create a marketing company. So they made her their first CMO in the year 2000. And I got to go work with the company and got brought in with a $500,000 contract.
Wow. Okay. So your tip basically is to not try to just establish your own credibility and be recognized as an expert, but to partner with people who already have notoriety, expertise, like that validation, and then
Thought
collaborate.
leader. Exactly. Thought leader
Known
expertise.
thought leader experts in that
Yes.
space. Collaborate
Yes.
in some way with them. I mean, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
They get the benefit of new ideas and new energy.
Yes.
And someone who's willing probably to do a lot more work on the project
Yeah.
because they don't have time.
That's
and
so
they
true.
want to keep putting content out, and they want to keep,
Yeah.
sharing. So what a great idea. But I have to just say that, and you resonate like so much with what I know and what I've heard from some of my other leaders that I've interviewed.
Yeah.
This idea of being willing to reach out to people who are beyond your current level of comfort or knowledge or whatever, however you're sort of holding yourself back, and just seeing what will happen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could also spend an hour telling us all the doors that were closed on you.
Yes.
But you didn't let that bother you. And I just want to spell that out, because some people are so afraid of the no. This is the Wayne Gretzky quote, right? They just don't even try, and they get all no's because they don't even try. So it's the idea of like reaching beyond your current status, perhaps, is the way to think about it. And then if you get a Seth Godin, or you get this woman who's like high up an executive, or Ken Blanchard, like that's how you could then build up your own network.
Yes. It's a beautiful way to do it. And it is the big thing about networlding, which I lean in on now. I call it the great exchange, because step 4 is everything I tested and researched, and that got licensed by, by the reality in the corporation, as well as in the in a college. And all I want to do now, and I keep saying it, and it's probably the hardest thing versus even going and getting someone who's a higher status. I just want to give it away. And that's been the hardest thing. So it's a fascinating world we live in, isn't it? How afraid we are to become all we can be. And my favorite thing is to share. And I call this my give back time. It's like, don't you get it? I'm not trying to bait and switch anyone. I'm trying to really help others. And the one story that comes up that I do want to bring up is my granddaughter, Grace, who's 9. At 8, because you're right, the 8 to 10 time is a beautiful time to help kids. My granddaughter, because we go away, my husband and I go away for the winter, and we're in Charleston. And I missed Grace a lot. She's a miracle girl, without going into it. But I asked her, I said, would you like to write a book? And she did want to write a book. And she came up with a book idea that I had never thought of. And it's called Face to Face. And you get two books, give one to your friend, one to you, and then you play exercises and you get to know each other. And we had so much fun with it. She talks like she's already graduated from college, Grace does. And her teacher wanted me to come in and share about the book. So I came in and I thought I was going to be the presenter, but she was. And that was just amazing. So,
You're also, I can't remember who first explained this to me, but the idea of you want mentors,
yes,
you want peers, and you want to also be a mentor, right? You want to be lifting up others, and like
yes,
it's a great example of that. You were saying that in 2009 you shifted your focus to wanting to give back to and explain your process of publishing and helping other authors get their ideas out into the world as thought leaders. So today, in the current day, what are the specific types of problems that you're solving for an author?
I think the big thing is helping them have a book that's not a Me Too book. And I love research. So I'm helping them even in some way become a better thought leader. They are all thought leaders, but deep research and a positioning where they can be a complementer. And I notice that you use that term a lot. That's where I'm at. In fact, I thought that there would not be a book that I would write again on networking, but I had one in mind, and it's called The 2-Degree Advantage. And mathematically, I did all this research. No one's ever written that book. I've had it in my head for I don't know, 5-10 years. And it's amazing. And looking at it, and I started researching all the best-selling books on networking, and I'm going, this adds value. As long as you're a complementer, that's a wonderful thing. And we should be together and help each other.
Yeah, I mean, you're not knowing a lot more about your topic. It makes me think of how Malcolm Gladwell popularized another concept, the weak ties.
Yes.
And he found research, again, like the idea of taking good research, but then making it accessible to more people in a way that they'll remember it. And, if you're looking for a job and you ask your 5 friends and family who are close to you and they don't have any leads, like, and that's all you do, like you don't get a job,
right?
Like you've got to go beyond that. And that's true for all the work we're doing. And it's definitely how I approach launching a book as well.
Yes.
I connected with you initially through a couple of your authors who signed up for the Kindle flash sale like a year ago, because 2 titles were submitted that started with 33 ways to, and then they had whatever their thing was. And I was like, oh, these seem connected. Like, what's the story here? And they were like, oh, I work with Melissa. And they were like so complimentary about what you do. So that seems like a particular framework that you're helping reluctant first-time authors figure out how to move forward, because it can be very overwhelming to get started. And also, if they don't think, I mean, it's one thing if they're like a very established thought leader, they probably have a body of work that they can pull from. But for some people, it's just hard to get started. So explain the premise of this, because I'd never heard of anything like it.
Really?
And it's so clever.
That's so nice.
The 33 ways. What is that all about?
Well, I really do like the number 33, and it even talks about why in the back of the book. But the idea is, what if there are those people that you just described, and they're wondering whether they should get into this or not, but wanted to start so they could have that experience of going through the whole book process. And I'm a big cheerleader, so I'm really I'm always there. And what people say is, oh, she held my hand the whole way. That's what I want to do. But the cool thing was I'm marrying it up, noting that Amazon added the feature of its own page for a series. So I had to fight with Amazon a little bit about this, and I had a whole way of strategizing how I could get them to let me do this, because every author keeps his or her copyright. I gift my imprint. I'm an unusual hybrid publisher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to have all those books. I want these individuals to have their own books. So the 33 ways, I think there are maybe 13 or 14 in the series now. And it's very easy to write that book and showcase your talent. So that was a fun thing to do. And as you help me pull out of my mind, is that's what I like doing. I'm always looking for the next interesting, unique thing to do.
So 33 ways for
Mhm.
someone who is not maybe created a ton of blogs and such, like,
Yes.
is that seem like an overwhelming number? Do they end up with like 65 and you have to pare it down? Like, how do you help people find the right 33 things to talk about within the context of whatever their subject matter expertise is?
Yes, I think uh, it's really talking it out. And the nice thing is, we're looking at books that are maybe 25,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been researching readership, and readership of longer books is definitely going down. So that award that you feel when you read a book and complete it, the 33 Ways is really a fun book to write. And I've never had a problem with an author that we couldn't come up with 33.
Yeah, I think it's just, I love these interesting frameworks.
Yeah.
And I also, I do a lot of author panels with the folks who are part of this Kindle flash sale that I organize 3 times a year to help kind of raise visibility
Yes.
for these books written by business owners. And all of them say book one was their practice book. you know, um,
Yeah.
they're either are already on to book 2 or 3, or they're
Mhm.
planning to do book 2, but they're like, book 1 was about lessons learned, figuring it out. And I just feel like this is a entry, like finding a hybrid publisher or a writing coach or a writing community that gives you the right kind of
Mhm.
structure to help you create an initial book, but is in as best a possible way as you can, like
Yes.
with the business focus piece, with good, design and formatting and all editing, like do the best possible effort you can, but you're still going to
Mhm.
have lessons learned. And then
Yes.
hopefully you feel so good about the first process that you want to try it again and improve upon it. And I mean, that's obviously how you got so good, is you kept doing it. What's the main difference you're seeing between the world of traditional publishing that you were part of back in the beginning of this and now, where, like you said, there's this sort of I see this Venn diagram of overlapping small publishing houses, hybrid publishing houses, and assisted self-publishing, which sometimes are just a difference of name. And sometimes you really have to
Mhm.
understand like who owns the copyright, whose imprint name, whose KDP is it being uploaded to, is there a royalty share? I mean, there's a few key questions to ask, but
Yes.
like you could have that answer be the same for 3 organizations that actually all identify as 3 different things, which can be very
Mhm.
confusing for the author.
Oh,
But
yes.
what's different about this now that the playing field is like wide open and we're not having as many gatekeepers? What are the upsides? What are the downsides? What do you think authors need to know about finding the right kinds of resources?
And that's a very good question. I mean, you're and I'm not playing this up, to make you feel good in any way, but you have a very good model for support
Mhm.
for other writers. There's no question. I think the publishing side, for people to learn more about and understand what the possibilities are. And number one belief, by the way, of an assessment, and um, I had a industrial psychologist help me with an assessment for networlding. And the number one belief among top performing networkers is anything is possible. So I have that framework where I think, the most important thing is create that first beautiful book, first awesome thing that you know you're an author and you can feel proud of. And that even if somebody comes to you, like for me, I think I have 7 authors now. I usually don't take on that many getting into launch. And I'm sending them to you. Go talk to Robbie. And it is, they'll want the second, the third, the fourth review. Oh, but don't I get another one? Traditional publishers don't even do that. So I think the thing is taking ownership and having just even the process of writing a book is life changing. And I always say to people, when you get that first book, first round done, you feel like an author. Now you're going to feel more like an author as we go forward, but it's so hard to help them understand without getting like, like a deer in the headlights, that it's just stay with me. It's okay. I'm holding your hand. You're going to feel it. And once you go through this, like you're saying, just even once, if you do it the right way with the right people, it's going to make the difference for you. It's going to be that life-changing thing that people talk about.
I talk to a lot of people who are new to authorship and people who have and maybe moved on to second and third books. And the big shift between these two groups is the first group, the authors who are just new to this, they can't see around the corner. They have no idea what possibilities to even dream up beyond holding the book in their hand and taking that selfie. Like that is sort of their ultimate goal. And then you talk to people who have the second book and third book and who've learned a lot. Plus, they've built up an author community. So it's not just they're hiring better experts because they understand the value of getting the right kind of support, but they have more author friends who are successful. And so they can learn from those people's journeys and start to set a different kind of expectation of what are the metrics of success to aim for. And if you have that metric, then you can have a strategy to reach it. But if you can't even dream it, then you can't achieve it. Like it's just really, there's a line there. So I think working with folks like you who provide that framework, who help, like you said, hold their hand every step of the way. I'd love to have you share 1 or 2 client success stories. The way I often ask the author is, because I'm an author, ... Like what were they able to accomplish? Like what's something you can think of with an author who maybe was like you said, not the most household name, right? They come to you, they have an idea, they have a passion, and now because they have a book, this other thing is possible.
Right. And I would add, which keeps coming up, get the book, but also get the right network. Because if you have the right network and it's like people always ask, well, what does it feel like when something's successful? It feels like home. It feels like you're cheered on. It feels like you won the lottery in some way, maybe not the $1 billion lottery, but something. And from there, you can build off of it. And I actually have a book that people can come and get besides 33 Ways How to Write a Thought Leader book. But there's also Brave Leaders, Terrified Authors. And I have never seen such terrified people. They'll be up and then they'll be down and then they'll be up. And, the goal is give them that solid footing with a network. So I want to definitely indicate that you can't beat having a great network. And so, that's, again, I give these things away. So if you wanted to start a support group, and because that would be the best way to do it, I'm happy to give you the model. And I have the tools. I have the participant guidebook, and I have the Great Exchange, and I also have the facilitator guidebook. So it would make me nothing more happy than people to actually go do the support circles, which is what I did when I brought out Networlding. This is one success story. What I did is I partnered with the Chicagoland Chamber, and I asked them what day was the most unused day for one of their rooms that could fit 10 people. and it was Wednesday, let's say, and I took 1,000 people through the process that year. And at that time, Amazon was noting books that were in the top 10 list in cities. That was in the top 10 over all thousands of categories for an entire year. Because what I did, and I just give everything away, folks. I said to people, you can go get the book online and pay $50 for a boot camp for a day for networlding. We'll go through the 7 steps, and everybody had so much fun. People from all over the world came together, all the big companies, wondering why their companies didn't do things like this. But because the 7th step is a celebration and they get to have a party. But that was, if they didn't go get the book, they had to pay $350 and we'd give them a book. And I had people volunteering to help too, because it was so much fun to be in the support circles.
That's awesome.
So why not do that is the big story. Create something that can do that for you.
You know, I offer complimentary 30-minute book launch brainstorming sessions. And the first question I ask is, where are you in the existence of this book? Because I want to understand kind of, are they the beginning of writing? Are they like publishing next week? And then the second question, which is not meant to be a gotcha question, but often is, how does this book relate to your business? Because everyone I'm meeting with is an entrepreneur and writing a book for their business. And so often they have a little hemming and hawing about their answer to this. And one of them actually the other day said, I knew you were going to ask me this. like in a, I don't know if I'm prepared for this pop quiz. And I'm like, it's your book. It's your business. So if you know the ultimate, what you're trying to achieve with this book, and you can think big about it, then the support circles you're creating could get you towards the right book. Like for one of the things I did for my second book was I had a piece of content in the book that I needed to validate. And I had done it as a coach, but now I needed to be validated for a reader, which is different because I'm not there to explain the missing steps. Because it turned out my initial attempt to write it out was steps 1, 4, 7, and 10. And people needed 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C. So, okay, I learned that. So I had people before the book existed pay me $100. They got access to the PDF of that piece of the content and 2 weeks to take action on the steps.
Cool.
And then they came to a 2-hour call to workshop what to do next now that they had this list, or to talk about what struggles they had with making the list. And I learned it was basically doing research at scale. I mean, I was having these small group discussions and they were selling each other on my services.
Wow, so that's cool.
I did like 13 sessions over about 6 weeks. It was a flurry of activity, but I probably had 80 people go through it. And those people months later were the core of a much larger launch team because they were waiting for it. And when I said I'm ready to build a launch team, they were actually passing that link around and getting people to sign up because they understood at the very least this information would be covered. And of course, much more. So don't be quiet about your books. Like talk about them as you're creating them, whether it's in these structured support circles or you're running like these little pop-up masterminds is what I called it. I love engaging the network. It's just so key. I'm curious. You mentioned we talked a little bit about how nice it is to have number one, but it's a nice to have, not a required success metric as far as like money in the bank. What success metrics do you think authors should pay more attention to that they're not necessarily already talking about? Because I feel like a lot of authors come to me telling me they want to hit number one, and I'm like, where? And they either have this lofty idea of, New York Times, and I'm like, what kind of network do you have? Like, what? Like, or USA Today. I'm like, do you have an extra 20, 25,000 sitting around? Like, there are people who will help with that. That's not what I do. Or they're like, Amazon, I want to be an international bestselling author. And I'm like, what does that mean? So what else could they be focusing on that would help them? Because, you're getting them to work on these books that are structured and have some support, but how do you help them make sure there's a business focus?
It's because what we talk about, because there is the network already, then I connect with the other authors. So we have a group uh, uh, connection on LinkedIn. And so when anybody has something that they want the support of the larger network, they can go there and make a request. So that's helpful. I used to have events all the time or sessions every other week, but it got to be sometimes when you do that, you don't get as strong results because they're taking away from actually implementing
Right.
in a bigger way. So there's no question that when it comes to networking, I would say that that's the most important
Yeah.
thing. And I did partner with somebody to help her create a speakers bureau, and she was very successful, and I got to be the last minute speaker.
Hmm.
So I was able to make an extra 100,000 by being the person when other people didn't come and they got sick or whatever. I mean, think out of the box, but think network. And all I can say is read your stuff, because you've got the book on the launch, and I tell everyone about that. But the real question, I think, is how do we think even bigger?
Hmm.
Because what if we could? I have had, like with Billy Dexter, who he has sold about 5,000 books. I went ahead and partnered with him on my methodology with his. So
Hmm.
that's a success story. Think of who you can partner with.
Right.
I would
Super smart.
definitely go after that.
Speaking of collaborations and partnerships, you recently joined as a Biz Book Pub Hub partner officially,
Yes.
and this is it's many faceted. It's an eco resource ecosystem. So it's bringing together referral partners who specifically focus on working with these kinds of entrepreneurial authors, folks like you and I. There's the free virtual networking events. There's the podcast resources. There's the Kindle
Mhm.
flash sales.
Mhm.
Why was that of interest to you? I mean, you're someone who's clearly
Yeah.
well networked, so
Yeah.
you're not like shy about finding people to talk to. But what attracted you to being part of this kind of collaborative space in the world of publishing?
Well, you're gonna laugh, but I mean it when I say it. I wanted people I could buy things from. And
Mm.
I'm already I working with somebody. I guess I don't have to mention her name, but she came back to me and she goes, "I can help you this in your website, and if you pay in advance, you can get an extra 10% off." I'm like, "Okay."
Wow. Yep.
I was looking for resources that were on the up and up, and just like people enjoy holding my hand, I enjoy having people that can hold my hand and help me, because we all need to always look at what we have and improve upon it if possible.
A trusted referral network. That's
Yes.
why I was I was looking for it. It
Yeah.
didn't exist.
Right.
I decided to build it.
You did.
I will tell you, Melissa, I thought initially it would be about a dozen people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Uh-huh.
took off, and it became
Yeah.
something much bigger over a very short amount of time. How can people find you and follow your work? We'd love to help people connect to you.
Yeah, thank you. I have an email that's at, you can go to networlding, net and then world and then ing.com. There's so much on there because it's like 1,000 blog posts. And then you can also reach me on LinkedIn, and I'm under Melissa G. Wilson, like G, because the G has followed me in my name. So G is in, I hope, good. And I am always like you, very happy to talk with anyone and help them. I mean, I've even helped a shepherd over somewhere on the other side of the world, people from all over the world, and
Amazing.
it's yeah. This is the thing that I do want to say in the end is, Robbie, you really have done something different and special.
Thank you. And I appreciated you giving a shout out to my latest book, Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's
Mhm.
Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue. You can learn
Yeah.
more about that at booklaunchbrainstorm.com. I'm going to put all the links
Mhm.
to your website, your book, your LinkedIn, all those things at bizbookpubhub.com, which you also find all the other show notes from the hundreds of episodes we've hosted.
Hundreds, yes.
Yeah, it's been really incredible what we've been
Wow.
able to pull together. This is episode 484. So
Wow.
we've been at this
Amazing.
for a while. You'll also find all the free virtual networking events, the Kindle flash sales I organize 3 times a year, the directory of trusted referral partners like Melissa and I. Just head over to bizbookpubhub.com to find all these amazing author resources. Melissa, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.